Welcome to Scaling with Purpose, the show where we explore what it takes to build companies that aim for commercial success and meaningful impact. I'm joined today by Zaeem Hasan Khan, founder and CEO of Simba Money, a fintech based in Dar es Salaam, building financial access for Tanzanians and across Africa. Zaeem, it's great to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Mohammed. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Before we go into the story of Simba Money, I wanted to ask you something I ask every founder we have here in the podcast. What is the single most important lesson your journey has taught you?
Okay. So I think, to sum up my entire journey, I think, I've been part of board meetings, strategic meetings, where I have taken or we have taken billions dollars worth of decisions. All right. Like we need to do this, we need to do that. This is how we're going to change. But the most difficult part is the process to implement. All right, so that's the biggest lesson, that taking decision in a closed room, all right, with some numbers on a spreadsheet, all right, is very easy, but to implement it, all right, is the most difficult part, and that separates, I think, from an audience of generic founders to successful founders. All right, and that's the lesson to my fellow founders, that you need to actually understand the methodology to
Mhm.
implement the decision that you have taken in the boardroom itself.
Yeah, interesting. So this brings some contrast in what is being discussed into boardrooms inside the walls of a boardroom, and the real execution of things, because everything looks really nice on paper until you are faced with the reality of the practical side of doing things. Yeah,
Exactly.
beautiful insight.
I'll give you
Yeah,
an
it
example.
also
I'll
maybe
give you an
sheds a light on how certain people have a big mouth inside the boardroom and they cannot execute, and other people are maybe sometimes a little bit more shy in the boardroom, but they execute really well, right?
Oh, for sure. I'm gonna give you an example, all right? So I think one of the biggest decision is around products, all right? Like what to build and what to offer to the customer, all right?
Yeah.
And boardrooms tend to focus on a concept called product centric, right?
Hmm.
If this product is being work is a successful product in South America market, or it's a big success in the European market or Asian market, it should work in Africa, all right? uh,
Theoretically.
yeah, all right. So the theory is fine, the number looks good, all right. So this is a product centric approach, right? So
Yeah.
all your decisions, all your spreadsheets, your data, everything revolves around the product itself. But what I have learned actually, all right, is that if you really want to ease out, all right, the implementation process, all right, you need to actually bring customer voice in the boardroom itself, all right. So which makes your discussions, your build, your deployment customer centric,
Mhm.
right? Because if your product is customer centric, you're going to have a marketing activation process, market activation, that is touching the decision making points of the customers. Your
Yeah.
product becomes habit forming rather
Mhm.
than just another product on the aisle itself. All right.
Yeah.
So I think one of the biggest things that the boardroom, the founders need to adapt is bring the customer into the boardroom. All
Yeah,
right.
interesting.
Go beyond numbers, go beyond spreadsheets, go beyond some tools. All right. Bring the customer to the boardroom. The customer automatically tells you what they're looking for. All right. And that's what Africa is all about.
Yeah, interesting. And normally we move on and go through your journey, but I'm really interested in how you look at this, because you're saying bring the customer into the boardroom. Can you unwrap that? How do you do that normally? because for some people they would directly understand, okay, this is how to do it, but for other people it sounds very abstract, right? It sounds like something that is written in books or in poems that sounds very beautiful, but how to make it actionable for the listener?
Perfect. So I think, let me start from the theory side, all right? Because in the theories where we have read is that, um, there's a go-to-market plan, all right, and you have your acquisition channels, you have your sales team, all right, and every product should has a go-to-market plan associated to it, then the cost associated to it. But what I have learned and what I have actually modified is that I would like to actually create an umbrella called market activation plan,
Hmm.
right? That host numerous sub go-to-market plans, right?
Okay.
You understand what I mean is that when you bring the customer to the boardroom, all right, you
Hmm.
do a proper personification of the
Hmm.
customer. You do, and personification can be done through demographics, all right, through urban and rural divisions, all right. It can be done through gig economies, corporate customers, or farmers to students, all right. And then you do a small CUG, closed user group, all right. Founders, product strategists, they need to be with them, all
Yeah.
right, guys. This is what we are doing. Like, open your arms to actually accept feedback from day one, all right.
Yeah.
From day one, the feedback loop needs to be perfected so that automatically, because you have the engine, you have the people, all right,
Hmm.
to create super or state of the art products, all right. But if you have the feedback loop perfected, embedded within your engine capability, you don't need to think about what products to create.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your market, your customers will tell you which products to be created. What
Exactly.
will happen? You achieve customer centricity. Your
Hmm.
market spend decreases because absorption is high, all right?
Yeah.
Because people will automatically latch onto it because they are craving for it, all right? And third is your overall market activation strategy, the efficiency increases. All right, you can
Yeah.
achieve wonders because I think every founder, when they go and talk to investor, the investors are talking about double digit growth month on month. And this is how you can do it,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah, very interesting. So actually, you're saying instead of focusing on product features or other type of attributes of a product and spreadsheets and whatever, make the feedback loop part of your process from the beginning. So you
Yes.
should have a go-to-market strategy, and part of the go-to-market strategy is the feedback loop strategy, and that should be one of the pillars of any go-to-market strategy you have. And I think that's a very valuable insight, because a lot of go-to-market strategies are created in a waterfall method thinking. You create a go-to-market strategy and then you execute it, never change it. And along the way, everything you learn along the way, you don't use that learning to improve the go-to-market strategy or the execution of that. And this is an interesting point. If you have a feedback loop inside your go-to-market strategy, then actually you're saying that your go-to-market strategy should be agile,
Yes.
should iterate within the go-to-market strategy as part of the process. And I really like that insight. Very valuable. Thanks a lot for
My
this insight, Zain.
Exactly. All right. I think to just to put the theory behind it, all right, because lots of our listeners are freshly graduates or they're thinking about creating a company and venturing into this entrepreneurship rather than doing fish netting marketing, like make sure the product is displayed on all the social media. Your customer feedback gives you another arsenal called tactical marketing,
Hmm.
right? You are, because as I told you, the market activation sits on top, all right, and then you have sub go to market. So then you can have go to market based out of personas, for example,
Yeah.
like what to showcase students, how to
Hmm.
approach universities, for example, all right,
Yeah.
how to engage gig economies, for example, how to engage e-commerce experts, all right, if your product is e-commerce, all right.
Yeah.
So this tactical advantage, I think, is one of the key success arsenal for any founder, all right, whether he is launching a product or he is in a mature product environment where he wants or he's looking for an extra growth now.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's very valuable because uh, it's go-to-market strategies are not for people that first are penetrating a market for the first time only. It is also for entrepreneurs that already have a market, already have a market share, and they want to deepen their penetration of the market. So also in that case, you need a go-to-market strategy. Thanks for these insights. I think it's time to move to your journey because I'm really interested in knowing more about it. I have digged into your profile and I have seen that you have spent 18 plus years in regulated digital finance, so across Africa. You have worked at Credible, Telco DR, 021 Africa, all these big companies before you have founded Simba Money. So, what I was super interested in is why did you make that step, especially, and what makes Simba Money so special? Did you miss something in the financial world that you wanted to add, or was it like a personal purpose? I'm really curious. What is the change you wanted to bring in this market?
Thank you. So my journey with digital financial services started from the telco-led fintech storm that actually came in Africa 18 years ago. All right, so I was one of the pioneers members, which where we launched a telco-led
Mhm.
prominent mobile financial service brand. And throughout my journey, I've seen the transformation of mobile financial service to digital financial service to mobile first financial service. And now what we see is mobile first digital financial services. All right. Now the banks and everyone are looking and trying to tap into this gold mine. All right. Because it gives opportunity to not only increase local market shares, but
Mhm.
also gives you an opportunity to go beyond the borders where you operate. All
Yeah.
right, because now regulations are very healthy now. They're very accommodative. You're going to see in Africa, lots of central banks have started to create sandbox solutions where
Mhm.
fintechs can come in, experiment their product, and XYZ. All right, why I opted and the reason my passion towards Simba Money, because throughout my journey I was actually managing singular vertical of this big umbrella called fintech itself. All
Mhm.
right, like for example, Incredible. All right, I was managing the lending portfolio. All right, where we were launching various lending and saving products. All right, where we were not dependent on the traditional credit bureau. All right, we had different standards and attributes from a mobile user to give him and calculate a credit score for him so that we can offer him various lending products itself. All right, telco dr was more of managing not only Africa but the entire Asia market. All right,
Mm.
where we were where I was spearheading digital transformation on cloud based, all right, on the telco side itself. All right, so I've been part of all these segments across my 18 years of life. All right, Simba Money is my vision to unify everything. All right,
Okay.
to the unification of what the actual meaning of digital financial inclusion. All right, like one app, one super app, one wallet that serves all the demographics, has
Mhm.
all the products. All right, and it's your ultimate wallet to pay local, If you're traveling, you can take your wallet along with it. You can buy stuff, send money, receive money. So that's the vision of Simba Money itself.
Yeah, interesting. Sounds challenging too. I
Mhm.
mean, those are quite some aspects of fintech that you need to somehow, yeah, solve for the end user. How do you take that challenge on? I mean, what kind of team do you have? How did you grow that team?
I think challenge, yes, for sure. All right. But as I told you in the beginning, if you bring customer close to you, all
Yeah.
right, your customer will start giving you the feedback. Because don't forget, Simba Money operates in Tanzania, where you have the most mature telco led digital financial services. All right, you have giants like, yes, we have giants like M-Pesa, Airtel Money, all right,
Mhm.
who have more than averagely 30 million subscribers, all right, across the brand itself. All right, the challenge is basically to overcome any challenges that you go and talk to the customer. Because this is that's why you're creating a company. All right, you go
Yeah.
in, you talk to them. All right, one of the biggest thing that we have achieved is our super app itself. All right, so I'll give you an example. We invited people from aging from 18 going up to 60. All right, so the whole UI UX design was actually was taken in consideration that a digital heavy user can use
Mhm.
it. All right, and also an elderly person can use the UI UX itself.
Yeah.
All right, so it's basically customer centric. Secondly, I would actually, if any founder who is actually planning to launch a fintech brand, it's always good to start engaging with the regulator early on. All right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So rather than going in as a new company, all right, you
Mhm.
go in as a collaborator. All right, you go in, you say, okay, this is my technology, this is how, what are your deliverables. All right, because central banks, regulators, they have their own agendas, they have their
Yes.
regulatory objectives that need to be achieved, and you need to be an enabler for them. Right, for
Yeah.
example,
Exactly.
digital financial inclusion was one of the biggest terminology, all right, for the last
Mhm.
15 years. Now it has been divided into subcategory. There's a
Okay.
data inclusion, all right, where everyone should be connected to data. That is one of
Yeah.
the uh,
Yeah, so for the listeners that don't know what this financial inclusion idea is about, so can you very shortly explain the terminology, the term?
Sure. So, financial inclusion or digital financial inclusion is a term or an objective, all right, for any central bank to give
Hmm.
access to basic financial services to all its citizens. All right. So, that is the financial inclusion. All right. Like a person sitting in the rural area can send and receive money. All right, and also a person sitting in an urban area can also send and receive money. All right, so that is the basic uh, access to financial services. So financial inclusion is, I think, one of the key agenda across all regulators. So as I was saying, that now it has been divided into data
Hmm.
inclusion. Now there's a rural financial inclusion, there's a urban financial inclusion. All right, in rural financial inclusion is like, what, okay, fine, you have given the basic financial services,
Hmm.
how you can actually offer various product that improves the life of the person living in the rural regions. One of the
Exactly.
biggest example is that in the urban, you have BNPL, buy now pay later. All
Yeah.
right, in rural, all right, Simba Money has actually changed it as grow now pay later. All right, on
Oh
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
farmer side. All right,
Yeah, very interesting concept.
all right, so the farmer gets the money, all right, beforehand, that he can actually buy pesticides, seeds, all the machineries and everything, and then actually plow the land, grow the crop and sell it. All right, and their stakeholders, everyone makes money out of it. All right, so that is the perfect example of rural financial inclusion. All right,
Hmm.
and also being customer centric, because I have two customers. I had the urban customer and I had the rural customers. All right. One wanted BNPL and one wanted to be supported, all right, on the crops itself. So what we did, we converted, all right, the BNPL to GNPL, grow now,
Yeah.
pay later. All right. So that's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, beautiful. I really like this tool because for a lot of people that are growing up in the Western world, we have no idea how life is in rural areas, right? We don't have farmers in our network. But I think one of the most interesting things is that farmers have a big asset. I mean,
Yes.
having ground to be able to grow anything on is a very big asset, and it gives you a lot of growth potential, like or wealth making potential. If you don't have any money to invest into growing anything on your land, then you cannot capitalize that potential.
Yes.
And what you are doing with this grow now, pay later is you are giving them the opportunity, you are enabling this potential for people to be able to create a real business around the asset they have. So they have value, or they have a value potential, and you are like the catalyst that makes it possible for them to really use that potential. And I think that is really beautiful.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to zoom in on that, just because I think many of our listeners won't understand what impact this could make, and I like to pinpoint the impact. So you are saying actually that it is very important to listen to the customers, but also when you are talking to a regulator, that you should look into, okay, what is the agenda of the regulator, and to align with that agenda upfront, so you can collaborate actually, like in any collaboration. And your advice is to start with doing that early on,
Yeah.
not wait until you have the technology ready. No, do that upfront before you start building, actually, if I hear you correctly. So what I'm really interested in, because I know you have started a while ago, and I know that the regulation part is really the most tough thing that you could have as a business, and you are in a very strongly regulated, yeah, industry, let's say. What helped you to understand how these regulators work? Because now you are giving us the advice, and we're very thankful for that. But what helped you to understand how it worked? What helped you get this certification?
Okay, so I think, for the regulation itself, all right, the regulators, first of all, there are lots of insight available throughout the social media. All right,
Mm,
you have laws, you have regulations, all right, that are part of the website of the regulation itself. All right, but also you can actually have a very good markets understanding. All right, what other people are doing, like for example, what telecoms are doing. All right, what banks are doing. All right, and I think I've been fortunate enough that when in Tanzania particularly, all right, the banking or the financial industry, all right, is very much accommodative. All right, they would actually, they will talk to you. All right, they will actually give you the opportunity. All right, they'll give you their advices. They're going to give you their learning, all right, in terms of how they are actually understanding the regulations. All right, and during that course you can also identify potential areas of engagement. All right, like when you go to the regulator, all right, you don't become any other bank or a neobank or a fintech. All right, you go in with a solution, all right, that you already understood during your market engagement activity. All right,
yeah, exactly.
you tell them that this is the potential we want to work on. All right, so that will be our primary focus. All right, so now you position yourself as an enabler, all right, as a
Mhm.
solution provider. All right,
Yeah,
this is where you gain interest from the regulator. All right, and you position your product as the primary to solve those potential areas. and the secondary is the normal generic features, for example, the sending and receiving of the money in XYZ. All right. But in the end of the day, what you will achieve is that the regulator, all right, not only start talking to you, engaging you, all right, and also you'll have lots of market insight, all right, to act like a collaborator. All right. You can actually solve real problems, all right, what the regulations are actually facing. Because from the regulator point of view, imagine that they have to actually regulate the entire banking industry and all these prominent fintech players. All right. So there, the majority is the authority. All right. If the regulator says that, I want you to go and have lending capabilities to the farmers in those regions, the bank can come up saying that, we have issues, we have logistics
Yeah.
issues, and then it becomes like a majority vote. But if you are a new player, if you are a new entrant, all right, you don't have those boundaries, you're not
Yeah, exactly.
restricted. All right.
Yeah.
So when you go to the regulator and you say that I am the person who will solve this issue by this product, all right, there you go. All right. The regulator starts becoming your friend. All right. He starts
Yeah.
becoming a co-collaborator. All right.
Yeah.
And it really opens doors, all right, for other institutes to join you. So that's what it is.
Yeah, interesting, because I feel like a lot of founders and entrepreneurs see regulators as a restrictive entity, like they're the people that restrict us in doing business. That's how most people see regulators. And I feel in how you are talking that you see regulators as a potential partner. You even said friend, right? So a regulator is on your side, and he is also trying to help the people around and to make sure that you can have a very good product. So I think this mindset is very interesting to take along, because it seeing the regulator as an enemy, or let's say someone from the opposing side that is trying to restrict you, will really restrict your work and restrict how you will communicate with that person. And if you act as if it's a friend or a partner or someone that is on your side, it will automatically also be like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The person will become your friend, it will become your partner, because you understand his agenda and the reasons why this regulator moves. I like that way of thinking, and I think that is very valuable.
Yeah. So I just want to give a perfect example here.
Yeah.
All right. So in Simba Monies, right, so we have two verticals. We have B2C and the B2B. All right. Again, giving you a more collaborative approach example from the regulator side. So one of the key pillars of the regulator was data inclusion. All right. We
Hmm.
want everyone to be given access to data. All right. So one of the project that we are working now is that any passenger that lands in Tanzania, all right,
Hmm.
will be given a government-led teleco SIM card. All right,
Okay.
all right. That SIM card will be automatically registered through his immigration status. All right.
Yeah.
So register SIM cards. That is as per the law. All right. Secondly, when he walks out, all right, he has a data bundle that is a bit limited, but he has a data
Hmm.
bundle that can be, his apps can work, like for example
Yeah.
Uber can work, Bolt can work. All right. Or maybe he can give a WhatsApp call to the hotel if there's a problem. All right.
Hmm.
But also he can also buy more data. All
Yeah.
right. All right. So technology aspects Simba Money is covering. We are covering the digital KYC. We are also covering the provision, right? But when I started to talk to the regulators, now TTCL, the government-led telecom, is involved. Immigration is involved. All right. The airport authority is involved. The BOT is involved. TCRA is involved. All five regulations are now working in collaboration with Simba Money to achieve digital data inclusion. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
Yeah.
If
Awesome. Yeah. I think having this collaboration mindset opens a lot of doors. Like you are saying in your example, if you are open to collaborate with these regulators, then automatically they will feel the urge to collaborate with you instead
Exactly.
of to punish you or to check you or to monitor what you are doing. So you put them in a position to help you. And I think in general in business it is a beautiful way to look at the world.
Exactly.
For all of you that enjoyed listening to this conversation, I did too. That's why it was a very long conversation of 1 hour. That's why we also split it into two episodes. If you'd love to hear the rest of the conversation, then stay tuned. We will release the second part in 2 weeks.